All right. So, David, welcome to Core. We're excited to have you. You've had one of the most accomplished amateur careers in golf, becoming a two-time ACC Player of the Year during your standout golf career at UNC, the number one amateur in the world, and ultimately earning your PGA Tour card after finishing first in the PGA Tour University standings. But what drew us to your story goes beyond golf. It's the way you've approached excellence with intention, curiosity, and a real understanding that performing at your best isn't just about working harder. It's about how you practice, how you recover, what you prioritize, and what keeps you grounded along the way. Today, we're excited to talk about that journey, what you've learned about pursuing excellence in a sustainable way, and who you are beyond the scorecard.
So we don't know if you've listened to any of our core conversations before, but we like to start at the beginning of your life. And it seems like golf runs in your family a little bit. But looking back just at the way you grew up, can you kind of set the scene of your family, siblings, and we'll just start kind of from the very, very beginning.
Yeah, I grew up as a triplet. So I have a twin brother who's identical and then a triplet sister. And my brother and I played a lot of sports growing up. My sister, not so much. But we were raised in a family that enjoyed golf. We were members at a golf course growing up called Atlanta Athletic Club. So golf was always in my family from a young age. My dad played golf in college at Georgia State, and they were not a they weren't an amazing golf team when he was there, but him and a few other guys on that team when he was there paved the way for the team to get better. So my dad was a good player, and he won the club championship a few times at my course, and then won the senior club championship a few times, and then beat his age by 2, I guess, a few years ago. He shot 64 when he was 66. So pretty insane accomplishment. His game has gone downhill since then. He's worked a lot, but he just retired, so he's getting back into playing more. So yeah, that's kind of how I was brought up. Played a lot of sports with my brother growing up. Basketball in the winter, baseball a few summers, lacrosse a few summers, roller hockey a lot, kind of year round travel. And then when I was 12 or 13, I dropped all those sports and started just focusing on golf. And when I was about 14 or 15, got more serious about it. And I asked my dad, like, "Hey, Dad, am I as good as you were?" And he's like, "Son, you're way better than I ever was." And I thought that was a good compliment, so I decided to keep going and, yeah, really dig my heels in and play more when I was 14 or 15.
That's great. And what went into that decision? Were you inspired by your dad or any professional golfers that inspired you at a young age at 12 or 13?
Yeah, I mean, a big thing when I was 12 to 14, when I was kinda making that decision of what I wanted to do in college and, paving the way for what sport I was gonna play, I think a large part of that decision was just the people that were around me. So I grew up at a golf course that had a thriving junior program, and we had, I mean, probably about 100 to 150 junior golfers that would come, like, at some point in the year and play junior golf tournaments. So there was tournaments every weekend. All my friends were out there. I developed some of my closest friendships in those early teenage years with people at the golf course. So ultimately, that's probably what kept me going to the golf course, is just hanging out with my friends. And then I fell in love with the game because I was able to work for hours and hours, and it gave me something to do. Golf is a sport where you don't have to just practice for 2 hours a day. You can actually spend 10 hours at the golf course and eat lunch there, go to the pool if I'm bored, practice putting for 2 hours, play the golf course, which takes 4 to 5 hours. So there's just a lot of things to do at the course I was at, which was a huge blessing and kept me coming back. And then, yeah, later into my years when I really made the decision, as a 15-year-old to pursue professional golf and pursue college golf, I think the biggest thing was I could work at it, and get better individually, and I didn't have to pass the ball to a teammate. So I knew that the ball was in my control, and yeah, whatever happened was based on the work I'd put in, and that appealed to me a lot.
Yeah, that's a great point. I also like you saying that you can live at the golf course. I think the
Yeah.
environment that you're in really fosters what you kind of the path that you get set out on. And then another thing, so your brother played golf as well. So how did that dynamic play into growing up? Just being not only like a twin or triplet, but just being on such a similar path. So how did that shape how you think about competition, comparison, and then ultimately success?
Yeah, it was huge. I think because my brother and I had competed all my life at basketball and hockey and lacrosse, and we were always on the same team, always trying to be better than the other person, even if we didn't admit that. That was an implicit competition that we had in our minds. And so, yeah, we were competitive from a young age, and on the golf course, it was no different. We were constantly compared to each other. So, whenever I would come home from a tournament, my dad would ask me how I played, and then he'd ask my brother how he played. And even if my dad or my mom didn't say anything that was comparison related, we still felt like we were being compared because we were always asked the same questions, or maybe by other people where we asked, "Did you beat your brother today?" And there was always that underlying comparison, which led to more competition, and it really led us to not be that good of friends until we were 18, 19, 20, like after we had gone to college, because we were just so surrounded by comparison. But it was huge for me to develop a hard work ethic and want to beat my brother. I remember one instance, we were both at the golf course when we were sometime towards the end of high school, and it was like pretty late at night, and we were both practicing, and we didn't want to leave the golf course because the other one was still there. And I remember like it was pitch black and we both had our flashlights out, and I mean, I knew it. He was thinking like he didn't want to be the one to leave the golf course. And I was thinking the same thing. So there was just this competition that was instilled in us from the other person. And I saw it a lot when I got to college, and I realized that I was a bit overly competitive, and I did not care what it would take. I just wanted to win. And thankfully I was on a competitive environment at UNC that had the same thing. But my brother was the one who really pushed me into that, and I pushed him into that as well.
So can you talk about the pros and cons of that? And did you and your brother actually ever have an explicit conversation, or was it just understood? Because obviously there are pros to it, but there can be some drawbacks, and I'm curious what you think.
Yeah, I think we didn't have an explicit conversation about it. It was more just understood. We're going to compete. Winning to me was like literally the most important thing in high school. Like if I was winning, then my day was going great. And if I wasn't winning, then it was a bad day. And so there was never anything. There was never a conversation I had with my brother about that. We just both understood the other one was super competitive. What was the second part of your question? I can't remember.
Like, are you happy that you had that in your life? Looking
Oh yeah.
back as you're still living it today, are you happy about that time, the competitive nature? Because it sounds like one, you love to be competitive, and you like the control. That's why you chose golf, which is different because some athletes prefer the team sport where they are sharing the ball. But ultimately, I think at the end of the day, a lot of people do like having control over their own progress.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I definitely see my competition with my brother as a good thing growing up.
Yeah.
When we both went to college, we were able to see how beneficial it was for us, and the fact that we had been competing our whole life for like bragging rights, or playing for $5 or whatever it was. Like we were always competing our entire lives. And so it prepared us really well when there actually was something on the line, like a qualifying spot in college, or like coming down the stretch of a tournament when our team needed to win. We were able to see that those things that were frustrating while losing in moments early on in our teenage years, those moments that were frustrating were actually really great for us in college. So I see it as beneficial. I think there were certain things that were formed in me during that time that were overly competitive, and I didn't care about people enough. I just wanted to win. And I think throughout college I was softened in that, and thankfully, like by my senior year, I was able to see that winning wasn't the only thing. And yeah, just really had that idol of competition torn down, and I was still super competitive. But I no longer it no longer was my existence to just win.
Was it that like helped you and your brother like kind of build that relationship up after like when you guys were like the 18, 19, 20 years old? Was there like a certain like realization that it's like, hey, we're in this together. We're both making each other better versions of ourselves, or was it kind of just happened over time?
Yeah, I think when we both went to college, we were able to see how similar we were, and there were certain things about the other person that we missed. And then when we'd come home from college, I played at UNC all 4 years. He played at Georgia his first 2 years. So when we came home from college, our freshman and sophomore year, we would have a bunch of videos to show the other person about funny things from our coaches and our teammates, and then golf related things, maybe campus ministry things of the church we were involved in, just videos of our friends that we really enjoyed sharing with the other person. And so when we came home, like we realized how awesome it was to have somebody that thought the same way and did the same things that we did. And that was I'd say a big part of what led him to transfer to UNC after his sophomore year. And that summer we had a few tournaments together that we were able to stay at. So summer of 2023, I believe it was. And we stayed together those tournaments and just had a few things in our life that brought us closer together. And yeah, one of those was I had become a Christian my freshman year of college. Two teammates that knew Jesus poured into me just really showed me like what a relationship with Jesus looks like. And it was super appealing to me. So I started to like read my Bible more and have a personal relationship with Jesus. And then my brother, the summer going into his junior year, also had a similar experience where he came to know the Lord as well. And that really brought us together, and it tore down some of the things that we had built up that were hindrances in our relationship, just the competition and always wanting to beat the other person at whatever it was. And yeah, we were able to see that it's a blessing that we're brothers, and the Lord has refined both of our hearts to bring us closer, and no longer do we have to just compete all the time. And I think that was a big part of the decision that led him to transfer to UNC, and from there we got a lot closer. We didn't live together in college, but we were always always traveling together just with the team, and we spent a lot of time together when he got to college my junior year.
That's awesome. I think that's so cool. And it's kind of cool to see the evolution of kind of how that relationship kind of grew over time. And we'll get more into your faith, but we wanted to talk a little bit about your success on the golf course. So we've heard you've taken kind of more of a quality over quantity approach to practice in a sport specifically where you could always be doing more. Like you said, you could be staying at the golf course until 10 o'clock at night. But how did you learn when to keep pushing and when doing less might actually be better for your progress?
Yeah, I think the approach I've taken is to hit less golf balls and play golf a lot. So do most of my work on the golf course and have a lot of my work be creative rather than technical. Not be bound by hitting hundreds of balls per day, but maybe just hitting 40 balls per day on the range and making those 40 balls really intentional. That's kind of the approach that I came up with my junior and senior year of college. And I think a big part of that was just tracing the last 10 years of my golf back with my coach. We've been working together for 10 years, my swing coach and I. And he would always he would always say things like, stop thinking and just start swinging. Like, stop trying to like think about all these thoughts and like just feel what you want to do and let it rip. Yeah, see ball, hit ball was another thing he said. Just certain things like that where you'd kind of be thinking like, who's paying this guy? Like, why is he just telling me the basics?
Yeah.
But I really saw a lot of success in that in junior golf where I would prepare really intentionally and do my work off the golf course. And then once I got to the tournament, like I was literally just seeing the ball and hitting the ball. And then coming into college, I noticed that a lot of the times where I played my best were events where I didn't grind as hard on the range right before the tournament. I kind of came into the tournament with the approach of wanting to swing freely and not needing to hit a bunch of golf balls and work on my game, but trusting that my game was good enough and then playing with a lot of freedom. So freshman, sophomore year, I kind of figured that out. I had a decent first 2 years, and then my junior year came around, and I wasn't playing great, and I was kind of thinking like, I need to elevate my practice. Maybe I just need to hit more golf balls, and had a really, really bad tournament. Let's see, spring of 2024, March 2024, a big event, a pro event that I was playing in. Just played terrible, shot like 83 the second day, and hit a ton of golf balls after that on the range, like just working tirelessly, exhausting my body. And my body started to feel bad because of the injuries I had dealt with senior year of high school. And I went to the tournament the next week expecting to play great. Like I had put in all this work, and it was the worst tournament by far that I've had in, I mean, amateur golf, junior golf, like probably the worst tournament ever, honestly. I got like 72nd out of 81 players. Maybe it was worse than that, but I shot a million, which is bad for anybody who doesn't know golf. I shot like, I don't know, 12 over or something terrible. And so I was like, well, that didn't work. Like we might as well hit less golf balls and see if that works. So I started to hit less golf balls the week after, and just go play the golf course and think freely, free my mind up, not care about what my swing looks like, but yeah, just try to play with a good attitude and swing freely. And I played much better the second tournament, so I just kept that momentum rolling. And summer junior year, I hit less golf balls, was working really intentionally on the stuff I was working on, but I wasn't working tirelessly. So it was 40 minutes a day of just hard work on my swing, and then an hour a day of putting, an hour a day of chipping, and that was it for my practice. And then sometimes I'd go out and play the golf course. But yeah, that was kind of what opened the door for me to formulate this idea of practicing less is actually better. In my senior year, that was kind of solidified because I thought I was going to redshirt before my senior year. I was like seventh in the country on the PGA Tour University rankings going into my senior year, which is a pretty good spot to be. But I had some injury stuff come up, and I was convinced that I had hip problems that the imaging was going to show were torn, and I wasn't going to be able to compete my senior year. I was going to have to delay it and set out a whole year to get hip surgery. And the imaging came back as not that bad. And I went to see some doctors in Florida. They told me you just need to work on these simple things, get your body better. I did that, and it helped a little bit, but the workouts that I was doing were like 2 hours a day and just really intentional stuff. I had to be thinking about what I was doing. And I'd already done some of that with my golf where I was super intentional with the time I was putting in, and now I was doing it in the gym. And then I started to see those two things work together, and I had a lot of success my senior year, just right out of the gates. Fall of senior year, I got 2 top 10s, and then I won the next 2 events. And so I just decided I was going to practice less and like really free my mind up and be intentional with the time that I was putting in. And yeah, I had a great senior year. And was able to coach some of the freshmen that were on the team through like some of the reasons why I do what I do. And we had some really hardworking freshmen who stretched me in that, and they wanted to understand why I wasn't hitting very many golf balls, and why they were hitting 200 golf balls and not hitting it as well. So I feel like that solidified this perspective, and I was able to teach it to other people, which helped solidify it in my mind. So yeah, that's just kind of the golf approach that I take, and it hasn't been perfect, but I feel like it's been really helpful in pro golf to have that balance of not needing to go overwork myself and really understanding what I do well and what works for me.
Totally. And I love that idea too that you call that like the trust. I think you're not saying like don't show up and don't practice. It's like when you're showing up and you're practicing, you're being intentional about what you're doing. And so when you're showing up with intention, you're able to get more done than just by like the vast quantity of just hitting 200 balls. And then it's like when you show up to play, your skills can flow through you and you can be there in a present moment versus in your head being stressed or anxious about whether you did enough or whether you hit that 250th ball and if that's what's going to make you better today. So I think
Hmm.
I think Maggie and I have talked about that, like being able to kind of have your skills and hone your skills, but then show up and allow those skills to like work through you versus kind of fighting with them. So I love that kind of approach to how you take in golf in your practice.
Hmm.
So our last question was when you look back at the times you played golf and you played your best, what was going on well in life beyond just the game of golf?
Yeah, good question. I think, well, it's funny. Some of the best tournaments I've had have come on the heels of like a really hard relationship situation or just me not feeling good about something in my life, some conflict in my life outside of golf that was going on. I've actually played really well. I think, yeah, 2 of my best tournaments in junior golf were from that. And then one in college golf was just a tough relationship situation I had. And I actually played great right after that. I think some of that is because when I get on the golf course, I feel like it's an escape from what I'm dealing with outside of golf. And I'm able to just shut that off and like really enjoy my time on the golf course because I love playing golf. So it's interesting that like some of my best tournaments have come when my life outside of golf is at its worst because it allows me to focus on golf. But one thing that I learned in college that I think is pretty true if you look at the whole 4 years of my college experience was when I would take care of my schoolwork off the golf course and make sure my details were in line off the golf course, then I would play a lot better on the golf course. There's one event in particular that I can remember from my freshman year where freshman year was not that hard academically, but either I wasn't that smart or I didn't manage my time as well as I should have because we came to a tournament midway through the spring my freshman year, and I had this geography assignment that was due. I knew what it was. I knew it was due the day of the final round of the tournament. So I knew if I didn't do it before the tournament or during the tournament, then I would have to do it on the way home from the tournament after I'd already played my final round on a flight. So obviously, like when you get off a long tournament where you played 36 holes the first day and then 18 holes the second day, literally you're out there that first day from, I mean, 6:30 a.m. is when you get to the course and you're leaving at 8 p.m. and you don't stop. You play golf the entire day, no breaks for lunch. And then the second round, you're fighting from sleep. You tee off early that second day. So that's a tournament I was dealing with. That's the geography assignment I was dealing with, and I didn't do it before the tournament. I didn't do it during the tournament. I had to stay up late after the 36 hole day before that final day to sign up for classes for my sophomore year. So that was also added variable that was brutal. And then I remember on the way home, like I was like almost in tears because I was so upset about how I had finished. I finished terribly in the tournament, let the team down big time on my last 5 holes, and then I had to do this geography assignment. And we had a junior on the team who just looked at me and was like, "Bro, like, what's wrong? Like, why are you so upset?" And first I told him like I was just upset about finishing the way I did. And he was like, "Dude, like, nobody cares. Like, get over it," pretty much. He looked me right in the eyes and was like, "It's totally okay." And then I told him, like, I was just upset about the geography assignment too and having to do that, and I didn't manage my time well. So that was I'd say a key moment for me that solidified the fact that I need to get my schoolwork done before I play golf if I wanna play well and finish well, and I can't have outside stress going on if I wanna play on the golf course with freedom. So that the guy's name was Austin Greaser. He probably remembers that moment at the rental car facility where, I mean, I was pretty much crying. I was like, "This stinks. Like, this is not what I thought college golf would be like." Just stressed out of my mind and letting the team down. But yeah, huge moment for me to grow in, and I got better at doing my geography assignments on time after.
There you
Also, golf is such a mental game, and you were just talking about creativity versus the technical state of playing. I think it would be cool to hear like the last time that you were in a creative flow state and what that felt like in your body when you were swinging. Can you just describe the scene?
Yeah. Yeah, I remember there's been a few times on the golf course in the last year or so that I can recall that I've been super creative and less technical. I guess the most recent one was at the American Express Championship in January. It was my second event of the year. This year, 2026. And I remember I started the day like 10 back or something, 10 shots back in a decent position for my second event of the year, but needing to go pretty low to shoot a really good score to make up some ground and earn some points and hopefully finish in the top 10. And I remember I had just a great start to the round. I think I birdied the first 3 holes or maybe 3 out of the first 4. And it wasn't the easiest start. And so to birdie those to get off to a great start was huge. And then the first I think I was like 7 under through 12 holes. For any non-golf listeners, that's pretty good. It's not like insane, but it's pretty good. And I remember looking at the leaderboard and seeing that I'm 2 shots back, and I kind of had this thought like, how did I get here? Like, this is pretty sweet, but like let's think about what we've done well and make sure we keep doing that well for the last 6 holes. And the biggest thing was I was super creative on those first 12 holes. Like I remember the the first hole I hit a pretty crazy um, a pretty crazy shot into the green, just like not a shot that I would usually try. But I was like, I'm just gonna try it. And my caddy just trusted me to do it, and I hit a great shot in there. And it was a very similar shot on the second hole. And so just knowing that I hit 2 shots that I hadn't practiced a ton, but I was feeling really confident to hit them just and be creative with them. That gave me a lot of confidence to continue to be creative. And so there was a few shots down the stretch that I really needed to hit well. And they're super pivotal holes, I'd say. Hole 17 is one of them. And I hit the same type of shot that I hit on those first 2 holes on the 17th hole and hit it on the green and made birdie, it was a great birdie on a hole like that. It was kind of either you hit the green and you have a birdie putt or you miss the green and you're looking at a bogey or a double bogey. So it was for any non-golf listeners, you probably won't understand this. Golf listeners, you probably will. It was just a little knockdown shot with a 7-iron from like 160 yards, which was pretty unusual to hit a 7-iron from that distance, but I hit the same type of shot on hole 17 as well. So it was just shots that I hadn't practiced before that I was feeling confident to hit because I was being creative. I feel like a really good example of it. And then just a short example of another one is I love to hit big draws, which is curving the ball hard from left to right for a lefty. And out in Utah was my best finish of the year in 2025. And I hit a lot of just big swooping draws to hole locations that were on the back right portion of the green. And so when you have a ball curving from left to right and spinning from left to right, once it gets on the green, it's better to access those hole locations that are on the right half of the green. So I hit a lot of those shots. It's a pretty unusual shot for my playing partners to see, like just with a short shot from 120 yards to see a ball curve that much is unusual. But it's something that I learned a lot about in college, and I kind of took with me into pro golf. So, yeah, being creative is hugely important to me, and something that my coach he tells me that pretty much every single day. He gets so far away from technical thought and more just into the creative space, and me trying to make sure my fundamentals are great, my everything technically is working, but really just wants me to be creative. So credit to Chris Moore, my coach, just for pushing that on me too.
That's awesome. We might hire you as our golf coach after this call.
Yeah,
I
probably not.
definitely need some lessons.
But I feel like the creative flow state, especially in sport and even outside of sport, is such like a beautiful place to be. But at the same time, when you're competing, especially in golf, like it's a very results driven sport. And you played in extremely high pressure situations as someone who is very competitive. So on the flip side, can you describe a specific moment when you really felt the pressure and kind of how you stayed grounded within it?
Yeah, man, pro golf comes with a lot of nerves. I feel like every time I'm in the hunt, up in the top 20 of a leaderboard that or even like top 10 of a leaderboard, every putt matters a ton for the points and the money. And yeah, one putt is the difference in um, a couple $100,000, and it's crazy to have putts that matter that much for a down payment on a house or something. And so pro golf has really, I feel like I was trying to think of one instance where I was really nervous, but I feel like every tournament, I'm pretty nervous. Like there's a lot to play for, a lot on the line. But one event in particular that I feel like highlights the nerves pretty well is that Utah event, and I was tied for the lead going into the third round, so the best position by far that I'd ever been in. And coming down the 18th hole, I had a on the second round, I had a putt to get into the final group for the third round, which is a pretty big deal for me at this point. And I had like a 5 foot putt that I was just super nervous over. And I told myself that I'd been playing great. I'd been super creative the whole week, super confident in what I was doing. And so it was just another putt to knock in to get in the final group. And thankfully I made it, played in the final group, had a decent weekend, ended up getting third in that event. And then the last hole of the tournament, 72nd hole, I had a putt from 10 feet to, it was a very important putt for my finish in the tournament. If I missed it, I finished 10th. If I made it, I finished third. And so the difference is a lot of money for both me and my caddy and a lot of points for, like if I wanted to make a run at the points list that fall. So yeah, there was just a lot on the line on this 10-foot putt. And I remember just, yeah, having a lot of peace stepping over it. Like whether I make it or miss it, like it's in the Lord's will. Like whatever happens here is like, I'm just giving the result to the Lord and focusing as well as I can on my process. And thankfully I made it, but there've been plenty of putts like that I missed. But yeah, I think just staying in the present, understanding that the result is in the Lord's hand, and then trusting what I've done in the previous tournaments, the previous months leading up to that, the previous years leading up to that, understand that I've had success at a high level while trusting myself under pressure. Those are like the things that I lean on, I guess.
What an incredible memory. I feel like all golfers have the most incredible memory of every shot, but at the same time, playing golf, you have to have a short-term memory. So I think that's just funny to hear that, how you remember every hole, but when you're in the moment, you have to have a short-term memory. And so how have you learned? You mentioned when you were younger that when you have a good game of golf, yeah, a good round of golf that day, good day or bad day, and it's dependent on that. How have you evolved since then? Because to live a healthy lifestyle, you can't always let your performance define how you feel about yourself and every shot define how you feel about yourself. So how do you ground yourself in that, or what keeps you steady and continue to like focus on your upward progression versus get stuck on the recent bad shots?
Yeah. I think the biggest thing for me is understanding that golf is not everything, and my life won't look that different whether I make a putt or miss a putt. And yeah, like even if I have a putt to win a tournament or lose a tournament, like if I make it or miss it, my life is not going to look that different at the end of the day. Like I'm still going to have to wake up the next day, work hard doing what I love doing, whether I'm making a lot of money, not making a lot of money, playing on the PGA Tour or playing on the mini tours. My approach to golf is still going to be the exact same every single day. So I think when I boil it down to that simple fact that my life doesn't change that much no matter what I do on the golf course, I think it helps me to not get so bogged down with the highs and the lows of it. And I think that perspective was changed a lot in college, and especially from when I got there freshman year, I was super upset whenever I played bad, and then senior year, it was not everything to me. Obviously, I had a lot more pressure on me senior year compared to freshman year, playing for my job and yeah, PGA Tour University rankings. But my senior year, I was able to see that whether or not I play on the PGA Tour or the Corn Ferry Tour or PGA Tour Americas, like I'm still going to have a job somewhere based on the PGA Tour University rankings, and I'm still going to be practicing the same way. And so I think my faith has played a big role in shifting that perspective too, where I understand that the Lord is in control of my life, and day to day, my minutes will be allocated the same way, whether I'm playing on a big stage or a small stage, I'm going to wake up, read my Bible, like get my heart right before the Lord, and then go practice. And like that's what a day will look like no matter what. And I'll be competing at some level, doing what I love to do. So I think just that perspective as a whole has been formed in me slowly throughout the last 5 or 6 years. And it's a fight. There are times where I'm really upset about how I played and frustrated, and it is dominating my thinking. But as a whole, I think it's something that I've thankfully grown in the last few years.
I think it's like so admirable and to see kind of how much your faith plays into how you show up on the course and off the course. And I think like you've talked about how your faith is what allows you to play with a sense of freedom and that like your identity isn't tied to your golf score. Can you just like get a little bit more into kind of what the role of faith plays in your life, like just on the golf course, but also beyond the golf course? I know you talked a little bit about how it's kind of influenced how you show up and play and your mindset, but just kind of overall in your life on the broader scheme too.
Yeah. Yeah, I think at a macro level, that perspective that I was telling you about where golf doesn't have to define me, my faith has really helped me with that. Just to understand that my identity is tied to something that is not based on my performance. Like what Jesus did on the cross to save me and change my identity from death to life, it's actually good enough to sustain me on the golf course too. And so I don't have to search for my identity in golf or performance, what other people think of me, any affirmation like that. So I get to work from a place of freedom rather than working for freedom, or like from a place of identity rather than working for my identity. So at a macro level, I think that perspective is my faith is super helpful for that. And then yeah, on a micro level, my faith is super integral to my golf as well. The one thing that I started doing my freshman year after I came to have a personal relationship with Jesus is started memorizing scripture on the golf course. So wherever I was reading in the Bible at that time, ACC championship, my freshman year was the first time I did it, but wherever I was reading in the Bible was where I was going to study scripture and memorize scripture on the golf course. So as I'm walking between shots, as I'm behind the ball, I have a verse in my head that I've been reciting the whole round. And so sometimes it's be strong and of good courage, do not fear nor be afraid, something like that in Deuteronomy 31, or other times it's stuff in the New Testament that just talks about the personal relationship with Jesus and how that's more important than whatever current circumstances I'm walking through. But whatever it is, like it had some real practical encouragement in addition to like the spiritual component of my identity has been changed. And just like one way that I can see that really practically is my freshman through junior year, I was super intentional with memorizing scripture on the golf course. My pre-shot routine, literally like scripture was in the middle of it. So like I'd take a practice swing, go behind the ball, recite the verse in my head, and then step into the shot without even thinking about the golf side of it as the last thing I think about. And there were times where I would have to give presentations in class where I would have the same feeling before giving a presentation as I did on the golf course. Like I'm nervous to speak in front of people, or even like nervous before a date or something. And those nerves would stimulate something in me where I would like desire to quote scripture, because the last time and the only time I had like memorized scripture was on the golf course when I was nervous. And so there's certain golf courses that I associate with certain scriptures, and then certain feelings that I had also associated with certain scriptures. So there's just certain things like that that are super fruitful in my life as a golfer. And there's tons of, one of my mentors puts it like this, there's tons of value in like the promises that God makes in his word, not only for our spiritual condition, like identity actually being changed from death to life and like having a personal relationship with Jesus, but also practically, like being able to look at my life, a relationship with my fiancée, or a situation on the golf course, and asking what the Lord says about that situation or situations like it, and then applying that to my life. There's just tons of practical wisdom in that. So that's kind of like, yeah, big picture perspective of macro level, and then small picture of the micro level.
I love all those thoughts. And you did say that you weren't a Christian until your freshman year of college. How were you introduced into the Christian religion, and how did that process look? And how have you found like community and people who can surround yourself by to help kind of support that journey?
Yeah, growing up, I had like a good idea of what the Bible said. I knew who God was, and I grew up in a kind of in and out of the church, went on some mission trips when I was younger in middle school and high school. But I didn't really have a personal relationship with Jesus until I got to to college. I kind of knew about Jesus going into college, and I did all the Christian things like read my Bible and pray, but I didn't actually have a personal relationship where I knew God. I just knew about God. And so coming to college, my freshman year, there were two teammates that really just started sharing what the Bible actually says and what I'm actually called to do in a relationship with Jesus. Like if I'm gonna have a relationship with Jesus, this is what my life looks like. And it's as simple as just like accepting Jesus, like believing that what he did on the cross to die for my sins, he actually did that for me. Like it was my sin that held him there. And through my freshman year, I guess like 8 months my freshman year of them hammering this perspective into my head that I need to actually have a personal relationship with Jesus, not just know about Jesus. I put my faith in Jesus. Like I actually came to a true belief in Jesus and on Easter of my freshman year. So it was April 17th, my freshman year. And yeah, it was just a really cool experience where like the pastor felt like he was preaching right to me. And I decided to like, this is the day I want to give my life to Jesus. And from there, a lot of the things in my life that like I was interested in before and the ways that I was sinning, the Lord slowly started to tear those things down as I continued to read the scripture and continue to surround myself with community. He kind of like tore those things down for me. Yeah, all I had to do was just read the Bible and be in godly community. And yeah, throughout my college life at UNC, sophomore through senior year, I had a really sweet time just connecting with community, and some of my closest friends are from college. So yeah, that was a huge part of my life, just having people that were wiser than me to show me what a relationship with Jesus looked like, how to walk that out practically, and then like who to surround myself with after those people had left. So yeah, community was huge for me. And now I'm thankful in Atlanta. I have a great community of believers as well.
That's awesome. That's great. You've spent many years working towards kind of being the number one amateur in the world. When you finally got there, did it feel the way that you thought it would? And what did that experience teach you about achievement and fulfillment, and what kind of like gives you purpose in life?
Yeah, I think it was more stressful than I thought it was. There was all of a sudden this expectation to like prove myself and yeah, uphold that identity as the number one player in the world. So there was definitely more pressure and yeah, things that I didn't really expect to come along with that. But I think the biggest thing was when I was PGA Tour U number one. I think it was I got there in the fall to number one, and yeah, I think all of a sudden in the off season there was just huge expectation of I have to go play well in order to keep this number one spot. And it was honestly more pressure filled than fulfilling. And I played as the number one on PGA Tour U for my whole senior year. I don't know if somebody passed me the second semester senior year. Brendan Valdez might have. Credit to him. Shout out to that boy. He's unreal. One of my good buddies too. He might have passed me. I don't know if he's listened to this, but I just want to make sure I'm correct if he is. I remember having just such a pressure to finish at number one before the season ended. And I remember as soon as that regional tournament finished, I looked at my coach and I was like, all right, that was the last term of the year. We're not going to nationals. We didn't make nationals. And so I'm going to do the calculations to see like if I have it mathematically locked up for the number one player. And I remember having so much anxiety that evening, trying to do all the calculations, making sure my calculations were correct. And then I didn't have any peace. And I was just looking so hard into this identity of being number one in the world. And then I got confirmation a few days later, maybe the next day, about that I was mathematically locked up to be number one on PGA Tour U. And I remember for the first 20 minutes of finding that out, I was elated. Like one of the most amazing like experiences ever, just to know like I had locked up my PGA Tour card. And then 20 minutes later, I get a call from my agent, and he's like, "Hey, like we got to get you on a plane going to play the Charles Schwab Challenge. This is what your summer's going to look like. We have a sponsor thing at PGA Tour headquarters in Jacksonville right after, where they're going to present you with the PGA Tour card, and then you have to go up to the Nicholas Award like the day after, and then you fly up to Canada the day after that to play your second event." And I just remember being like, "This is not real right now." Like the fact that I just had one of the best moments of my life happen, and all of a sudden it's like this never-ending spiral of we're just competing again. So that was a realization that I had where no matter what award I win or no matter like what position I get to, I was literally like I was in the best possible situation for like any golfer in college could be in, and I was super stressed about all the stuff that I had coming up. So it just shows like that moment did not deliver satisfaction like I thought it would. And even if the momentary satisfaction was there for 10, 20 minutes, my mind was still then occupied with what's the next thing going to be? How am I going to compete on in the weeks to come, in the years to come? So yeah, I didn't have enough time to celebrate it. And it was one of those things where I was just super focused on competing right after that.
Do you think that golf as a sport is just inherently a game where there's always a next box to check? Or can you kind of reverse it in your mind to somehow not think that way when you're competing?
Yeah, I think golf is especially like that because everything that the score you shoot is going to be the job that you have and going to be the money you make. And it's very black and white. It's tied to whatever score you shoot. Whereas a game like football, Jackson Dart, for example, like similar age to me, he like he gets the contract, signs the contract, and how he performs has a lot of impact on like his future. But it's not black and white. Like there's still some subjectivity to where if he doesn't play great, another team might pick him up, or like there's an element of gray in there, whereas golf is just so black and white. If Scotty Scheffler plays terrible for the next 10 years randomly and he no longer is the number one player in the world, he still has some career money years to where, or maybe his lifetime membership because of his wins or career money. But there's always going to be this idea of trying to uphold his identity as the number one player in the world or the number one player in the world who once was. And there's an element to that in all sports. I think one interview that is particularly interesting is a Tom Brady interview on 60 Minutes where Tom has done all the things. He's won Super Bowls. He's got like his dream wife. He has a life that he could never even dream of. And you'd think that he'd look at the reporter and be like, "Man, I've done it all. Like, there's nothing else for me to do." But the reporter asks him like, "What's next for Tom Brady? Like, what you've done all this stuff. What else is out there for you? Like, what else could you possibly want?" And he's like, I just wish I knew. Like, I wish I knew what else I could do. And it's this idea of like he's always striving to do the next thing, like to do the next interview or to satisfy and uphold his identity in some way because of what he's done in the past. And so it is this never ending spiral of, yeah, you're always gonna have to go to the next thing. But what's helped me the most in that is just remembering why I play golf, and I play golf because I believe the Lord has given me like a great gift to play golf, and I love the game of golf, and I ultimately want to like use my gifts, which I love doing, to give glory to the Lord and like share with others the love that I found in Jesus. And like if that's what drives me every day, then I don't need to focus on like what's next. Like no matter where I'm going to be competing, I can still be content and satisfied by using my gifts to glorify the Lord and by loving what I do and working hard every day. And that's a perspective that I feel like the Lord is still working into me, but it's much more helpful than trying to strive for my identity or to always be looking at what's next. I Yeah, just like
Yeah.
to beat the dead horse, like the Rory McIlroy's number 2 or 3 in the world or something, and Matt Fitzpatrick's up there as well, and Chris Goddard, and these amazing players where, like, if I were to switch careers with them, in my head, sometimes I'd be like, "Man, I'd take that career. That'd be awesome to switch careers with one of those guys." But they're still striving after Scotty Scheffler. Like, they're still looking up to Scotty Scheffler, and Scotty Scheffler is on top of the world, and he's looking to Tiger Woods, and he's still 60 wins away from, like, how many wins Tiger had, and it's just never ending. So yeah, there's always going to be something next, and that was hammered into me through a lot of my mentors in college golf.
Yeah, what a mature way to look at it, that perspective, but also you just did a great job of explaining it. And the fact that that's such a good thing to remember, that even people are asking Tom Brady, who's the top of the top, like literally named the GOAT, what's next for you? What's next? So just
Mhm.
I think that's a very valuable lesson. And then it also reminded me with what you were saying earlier about hitting less, like the idea of the law of reversed effort. So this is a quote that I like. It's the harder we try with the conscious will to do something, the less we shall succeed. So a lot of people that put 100% effort into something, either they find success right away and they peak really early and then they crash because there's always a crash after a peak. Or if you're really putting like 85% effort into something, it's a slower climb. But again, life is long and you're building towards something constantly. And again, like you'd rather, I feel like, at least I would, build a life like that versus like this, where you're
Mhm.
constantly up and down. Not to say that there can be peaks and troughs, I think the word is, like on the way up. but I think that's a very valuable way to put it in a great perspective. And then another thing we talk about at Core is that like all of us here that come on conversations like this, like none of us truly have it figured out, even if it may appear that way on the outside. So if you were to share, what are you still figuring out in this moment, whether it's in golf or in life, what would that be for you?
Yeah. I think in the current season I'm in, that's a pretty applicable question. I've been injured for 4 months, and I thought my year would be playing golf the whole summer and, yeah, not spending a lot of time at home, and starting in April, I guess, yeah, April 5th is my last event that I played in, and it's now August, and so, yeah, just I've spent 4 months at home, not really understanding why I'm at home and thinking I was just gonna be competing, and I think I'm still figuring out the balance between like expectations versus reality. So yeah, now all of a sudden, like I need to balance the expectations of going to compete in the fall. And if I'm going to be healthy enough for the fall, there's a few tournaments like in the next 2 months or so that I'm not sure I'm going to be healthy enough for. And I think I can say all this. That's like awesome about where my golf game is headed and like what I've done in the past to learn, but there's still like a lot of waiting in my life and a lot of things that I'm just having to be patient for. So I think the biggest thing I've been learning that I don't have figured out yet is like managing expectations, being patient with where I actually am and where I want to be. And then, yeah, just really, really waiting for the injury to be done and then to get out to the golf course and compete. And while I'm in this waiting season, like doing my best to make the time valuable and actually like make sure I'm not just spinning my tires, but working hard with what I can.
Amazing.
Awesome. And so before we close this out with like our core five question, I have a quick like rapid fire list of questions that are kind of just like quick answers for you to answer. Okay, so we'll start now. So your favorite course you've ever played on?
Eagle Point Golf Club, Wilmington, North Carolina.
Dream foursome.
Ooh, that's a tough one. I'd say Webb Simpson, William Kane, and my brother.
There you go. That's a great one. Biggest misconception people have about professional golfers.
That it's the easy life. I mean, you're just the fact that a lot of people don't realize you compete every week. Like I'm getting off a plane on Sunday night at 1 a.m. and waking up the next morning to play practice round Monday. You're just when you're playing 6 weeks in a row, it's an absolute grind mentally and physically. And you're walking 15 miles a day, and it's not as easy as what I had thought it was going to be like.
There you go. If it makes you feel better, that sounds very tough in my mind. I don't know if my dad would say, my dad would probably be like, that'd be the life, but
Yeah,
that seems tough. Favorite post meal round or post round meal. Sorry.
I'd say just chicken, rice, sweet potatoes, or broccoli. Maybe chicken, sweet potatoes, and some sort of fruit or vegetable.
There you go. Nice and healthy. Love it.
Mhm.
What's one book, podcast, or person that's had a big impact on you?
The Bible Caddy podcast, definitely. And
Bible
they
Caddy?
read, yeah, Bible Caddy,
Awesome.
Bible Caddy podcast. They read the Bible, and those are yeah two people out of the three of them that have had a massive impact on me. William Kane and Webb Simpson are the guys that would be in my dream foursome, and they're the ones that do that podcast.
There we go. Awesome. I'm gonna have to take a look at that. All right. That was our rapid fire, and I'll kick it to Maggie to do the core five.
All right. So the core 5 questions, we ask every guest at the end 5 quick questions. And we've been kind of talking about a lot of this throughout the conversation, but you can answer this in like a quick 1 to 2 sentences. So, first question, what's one habit that keeps you grounded?
Reading my Bible every day, and yeah, just getting my heart right before the Lord.
What's one thing you protect no matter how busy life gets?
Reading my Bible every day, probably, and yeah, getting my heart right before the Lord.
Good.
Love it.
What's one lesson failure taught you?
Let me think about it. I think the biggest thing is just kind of what we talked about with not having to be perfect. I don't have to just work as hard as possible for perfection after I have lost a tournament or blown a lead, but I can just trust the work I've put in the past and keep getting better at a slow rate and playing the long game.
Great. Who is one person that has shaped your life?
I'd say my fiancée, Hailey, just her desire to serve and to care for me well.
What's one belief you try to live by?
I think one thing that is it's a little bit abstract, but when we work on things in our body physically, like when I take care of my body physically, it actually has a profound impact on like my mental state. And when I take care of those things like nutrition and golf wise physically, then it reaps a lot of benefits for me mentally.
Amazing. And Kaela, last question. I'll give it to you.
So our last question is, who is someone who would you like to nominate to share their journey on core? next?
Great question. I think John McDowell would be awesome. He played soccer at UNC, transferred to Belmont. He's one of my favorite dudes in the world, and he's a beast.
Awesome. Excited.
Woo!
That's
Great
awesome.
job.
Perfect. This is awesome. Thank you so much. This is such a great conversation.
Yeah, we appreciate it. But hopefully it was fun to talk about golf a little bit again as you're
Yeah.
and we're excited for you to be back playing.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you guys. It was so fun. Like I love talking about golf. It helps me process things.
Totally.
So thank you guys.